First of all, I just want to thank Vicki. I mean, I'm totally blown away by what you put together here, and you and your team. It really is amazing. When my boss busted into my office, I don't know, a couple of months ago and said, "Hey, John, you're going to Colorado to Making Waves conference." I said, "What?" And I had thought a lot about it, read a lot about it, and talked with others that have been here before me, and totally blown away by the circumstances of the flooding, everything. So honestly, I'm really impressed by what you've been able to put together here. And thanks for letting me sort of back cleanup. There's lots of pros and cons to going last in a conference like this, and it looks like I'm seeing mostly open eyes here in the auditorium. So I do appreciate that. But one of the pros, one of the benefits of going last is that you get to make connections in your talk with a lot of the other folks that have gone before you. And there's a couple of things that I just point out. One is that you protect what you love. I think we heard that a lot this morning, and I'm going to reinforce that. I swear I didn't pay Richard, but you're going to see a lot of synergies between my talk and Richard's. Richard, we're going to try to move some of the stuff from the left-hand column to the right-hand column. I'm going to end on something that's, I think, going to help us do that. So without further ado, so my goal today is to end on a positive note, and that is to try to talk to you about how special places inspire action and how they inspire us. And in doing that, I'm going to walk you through how special places on land have our history of protecting special places on land, our history of doing that in the ocean, and then I'm going to talk to you about how connections of coalitions can make that and take that to the next level going into the future. So national parks have been inspiring action on land for centuries. Land and wildlife conservation started with the idea that iconic places like Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Great Smoky Mountains, the Appalachian Trail, the Statue of Liberty. This one is not, her feet's still dry now. But the Statue of Liberty, that these places have inspired action well beyond their boundaries. National parks, national wildlife refuges, and other place-based conservation areas on land have preceded and have inspired broader efforts to protect and recover endangered species, clean up water that we drink and that we recreate in, keep the air we breathe clean, and preserve the heritage that reminds us where we've been, like the Statue of Liberty. Although our experience in the marine environment is much younger than it is on land, the ocean is no less important to our survival, nor is the ocean any less threatened. I mean, we've talked a lot about that today. Marine species are in trouble. Fisheries worldwide are in decline. The ocean itself is at risk of becoming inhospitable to marine life as we know it. So recognizing the value of special places in the ocean has been slow at first. It started in the early 70s with the passage of the National Marine Sanctuaries Act, the Coastal Zone Management Act, and other similar laws, and also the designation of early marine protected areas. These efforts recognized that places like the wreckage of the USS Monitor, which was the first National Marine Sanctuary, designated in 1975, and the sensitive coral reefs in the Florida Keys, this is Key Largo National Marine Sanctuary, designated about the same time, that these places are sensitive and they're worth protecting in their own right. However, we also learned that protecting these areas inspired greater action and greater attention to the importance of preserving our maritime heritage and protecting sensitive marine habitats. So fast forwarding a little bit, in the early 90s, protecting special places in the ocean began to evolve. Initially, we focused on smaller, more discrete areas, And in the 90s, we got a little bit more bolder, and we were protecting larger, more regionally significant areas like the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary that you can see here. And Jim, by the way, very good on the pronunciation of Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands in 2006. But a lot more remains to be done. So how do protecting special places in the ocean or on land, how do they inspire and catalyze greater action towards marine conservation or towards ocean conservation? Well, there's a few things that I'd like to focus on for the ocean side, and that is networks of connected, protected areas in the ocean can minimize their regulatory footprint, but maximize the protection of key species and habitat that, if strategically placed and designated with this in mind, can help protect key ecosystem functions and help build the resilience of the ecosystem or of the marine ecosystem, and so that it can maintain functionality in the face of global stressors. Marine protected areas also provide a place to study the impacts of human activities on the marine environment, essentially serving as a place for scientists to have control areas so that they can monitor these effects. But lastly, and this is really what I want to spend the rest of my time on, is the impact that, and Richard touched on it before, the impact that protecting special places have on communities. It's the effect of protecting a special place in the ocean that catalyzes greater action and greater attention to ocean conservation generally. Special places, whether they're on land or the ocean, all have one thing in common. They have communities of people that are invested in their protection, in their management, and their conservation. Special places are special because they connect to people. They have emotional connections to people. They have cultural connections to people. And yes, they have economic connections to people. They are special because the people that rely on them make them special. And in some cases, these communities even depend on these places for their well-being or even their survival. Special places are special because of the communities of people that make them special. And when you have coalitions of communities working together, they have shown that they can do really special things. Your Rocky Mountain National Park right here in your backyard is a great example of that, where coalitions of chambers of commerce and others got together and really made this thing happen. Cordell Bank, it was on Richards off the coast of California, is another really, really excellent example of scientists working with divers, working with chambers of commerce, got together and really made that happen. So there's lots of great examples. Richard also mentioned crises. You can't forget crises. Crises have played a significant role in our history when it comes to protecting special places in the ocean. Oil spills and ship groundings in particular have been catalyzing events in the history of marine protected areas. In fact, there may not be a National Marine Sanctuary system if it weren't for the Santa Barbara oil spill in 1969. There may not be a Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary if the reef track hadn't suffered numerous ship groundings in the 1980s. And sure, the Exxon Valdez, we all know, spill in the 1980s spurred the passage of the Oil Pollution Act, but it also spurred the development of and creation of marine protected areas. But now, I would argue that our oceans face an even bigger, more insidious threat than ever before. With changing climate comes warmer ocean temperatures, rising sea levels, acidification, and a more accessible Arctic, among other things. And these are all on top of the more local, regional stressors that never really went away. Big problems call for big solutions, and when it comes to the marine environment, big solution calls for big connections, and that's where Richards, it's coalitions of coalitions. We need to link these coalitions together. And we've been pretty good, as I mentioned before, we've been pretty good about linking coalitions along the coast that have vested interests. But what we need to do more of is what we're doing right here, right now, and what this inland ocean movement. And Mark here, the presentation of making Boulder City and Boulder County an honorary coastal county of California and of Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary is awesome. And that is not just a symbolic act. I mean, these communities are actually linked. You can get on a plane. United has direct flights from Denver to Monterey. You can get on a plane this morning and be diving in Monterey tomorrow. And it goes both ways. People in Monterey can come here and go skiing the next day. So these communities really are linked. But our challenge is to find more of these connections. Where is the next Boulder-Monterey connection? And our challenge is also to inspire action, is to inspire these coalitions of coalitions, these connections between these communities, inland and coast, is to inspire them to action. And for the first time in almost 20 years, we actually have an opportunity to do that right now. NOAA recently announced it's reopening its process for considering new national marine sanctuaries, something that it hasn't done since 2000. And so we really have an opportunity right now to really kind of take the bull by the horns and start throwing out some ideas, start getting some of these things off the left side of Richard's ledger and push them over to the right-hand side. So for folks that don't know that much about national marine sanctuaries, I brought along a little bit of a little video to kind of take us home, to end the day, hopefully on a positive note. And let me see. Let's see what. Is it working? Here it is. Lights.
Marine sanctuaries, unique places addressing key issues facing our world, one special place at a time. During this challenging period, marine sanctuaries continue to connect communities while working on solutions to complex problems. Now, more than ever, the protection of sanctuaries is critical to the health of fragile ecosystems. In concert with the new administration, we're expanding our view of how sanctuaries can be places for finding alternative ways forward, new directions that enhance the environment while providing employment, revenue, and cultural engagement. Working together, marine sanctuaries are helping to create a new paradigm, one that encourages a change in behavior, a lifestyle that sustains our planet, rather than using our planet to sustain our lifestyle. These special places not only offer beauty and inspire wonder, but also provide solutions to the challenges facing the ocean, the planet, us.
So I know that was really risky turning off the lights on the last at the last session, but I think you're still awake, so I appreciate that. Do we have time for a couple questions? Okay, so with that, again, I appreciate your time. If you have a couple of questions, I think we got some time. Sure. There are lots of plans out there. I mean, sorry, Jim's question was, are there any plans for new national marine sanctuaries? And my answer is absolutely, bring them on. I'm glad you asked that, because the new process that we're going through is actually, it's it's a grassroots, bottom-up approach to marine sanctuaries. And so I'm not going to sit in a room and decide which areas should be sanctuaries. What we're doing now is we're really putting it out to coastal communities and coalitions of communities to give us their best ideas. And so, so while there are lots of ideas, obviously we've been approached both coasts, the Great Lakes, Gulf of Mexico, all over the place. There are lots and lots of ideas. Our challenge is going to be to sort through those and figure out where we can get the most bang for our buck earliest. But absolutely. I'm sorry, that was kind of a dodge, Jim, I know, but yeah.
Well, just expanding on that, without going too much detail, what general criteria are you looking for when you're assessing a suggestion or, someone makes a...
Well, at its most basic, national marine sanctuaries are areas of the marine environment that are special. And so they're special on a national level, on an international level, and they can be special for, because perhaps like the USS Monitor has historically significant maritime heritage resources, like the Monitor, or they can be special because they have unique ecological characteristics, or even are important culturally as well. And so there's lots of different sanctuaries. In fact, our history of sanctuaries, they're all designated for different reasons. I mean, Richard pointed out in his talk that many of them, particularly on the West Coast, were designated kind of as a defense against oil and gas. And while I'm not going to argue with that, if you look across our history of not just sanctuaries, but marine protected areas generally, they all have their unique, they're all special, and they're all unique in their own way. And so it's hard for me to say, well, it's got to have at least 32 species of whale. It's not as clean cut as that. I mean, this is going to be a process where, as I answered to Jim's question, people make their pitch, they do their homework, and we're going to have to look kind of across the various ideas that people have and make decisions.
Special to everybody on a regional level, but I think it has to have some kind of national importance too. I mean, not only regionally, but if it's representing a national sanctuary. I'm just kind of curious because I live in Seattle. We have, we kind of talked to some of the people there about designating certain areas there.
The Northwest Straits was an idea years ago, and we have Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary, where I'm headed next week, actually. So. I got my raincoat. Thank you. Yeah. In the back.
I heard the discussion about criteria, and I am wondering how fracking and thank you, identification of sanctuaries is impacting your plans and your work.
So when I opened it up for questions, I meant to say as long as they're not about fracking.
I was afraid of that.
I'll drag Richard back up here to answer the fracking questions. Seriously, I'll answer the question more generally. Certainly threats to marine ecosystems and these special areas are a factor in determining whether or not they are in need of additional protection. Now those threats can come from all sorts of different sources. Certainly energy production is one, but there are many others. So again, I'm not meaning to equivocate here. It's just we're just beginning this process, and so when we open it up, but certainly to answer your question more generically, threats absolutely are part of the equation. Maybe one more.
What's the cooperation going on between like the National Park Services? We just had a presentation from the Submersible Resources Division of National Parks. Is there any cooperation going on? And maybe there's ways to designate areas as national park that would be faster than designated as a sanctuary to protect.
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I think there are really two questions there, and one is, are we working with the national parks? And I would say absolutely yes. NOAA works not just with the Park Service, but the Fish and Wildlife Service and marine protected area managers at the state levels. And while I work for the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, what we care about is not just sanctuaries, because it's not about these 13, 14 places in the ocean. It's about the impact that they, coupled with other protected areas on land and in the ocean, can have in changing the game more generally. So we do work closely with them. So to answer your other question is, yeah, absolutely. I think what we care about is making sure special places are protected. If National Marine Sanctuary status, is the best way to do that, then that's what we should do. If it's not, then we should find what is, and we should pursue it that way. Thank you very much.